Hello friend. I want to tell you about the Mitsubishi Pajero Pinin car. If the Mitsubishi Pajero Pinin had debuted on the day it ceased production for the European market, it would have had a better chance of success and perhaps we would now have its second generation. This small crossover, referring in name and style to the iconic Pajero, offered everything that crossovers give us today and still had the features of a real off-roader. Today, you can buy it for little money and enjoy its versatility. Although the Pajero Pinin has a body based on a space frame, this does not detract from its design. We remind you that in the real Pajero produced at the same time, this solution was also used. In addition, permanent or switchable four-wheel drive, a reduction gear, a lock and a rigid axle at the rear, which increases the articulation of the axles. Short overhangs compensate for the small ground clearance of only 20 centimeters. However, be careful, not every Pajero Pinin is the same. There was also a version without a reduction gear, which you will read about in the chapter on engines. Unfortunately, in a body with a maximum length of 3,975 millimeters, 5-door version, it is difficult to fit more than 4 people and some luggage. Although theoretically it is a 5-person car, in practice there is no question of such travel due to the small width. The trunk holds 358 liters, and access is provided by doors that open to the right. The spare wheel is mounted on them. The 3-door version, registered for 4 people, offers even smaller possibilities, with a 166-liter trunk, which can be compared to the Suzuki Jimny model. The car is simple and practical, easy to park and drive around town. It is not as confident in driving as the RAV4 or CR-V, but it does well off-road. The engines provide good performance, but they also need a lot of fuel. Regardless of the version, you have to expect high consumption, from 8L, 100 kilometers on the road during a leisurely drive, to even 11 to 12L, 100 kilometers in the city. Engines. Mitsubishi has offered 3 engine versions, and in practice 1 petrol engine, differing only slightly in capacity and type of fuel system. This is the 4G93 G94 unit known from models such as Lancer and Charisma, as well as Space Star and Space Wagon. 93 means a capacity of 1.8 liters, while 94 a capacity of 2.0 liters, but in practice these engines only have a different piston stroke, i.e. crank system. The more important differences concern the power supply system, because both the smaller and larger engines are available with GDI direct petrol injection. The 1.8 engine can also be equipped with MPI and direct injection, which of course makes it the most desirable. Unfortunately, it develops the smallest power of 114 HP and torque of 160 Nm. The GDI version reaches 120 HP and 174 Nm. The 2-liter GDI offers the driver 129 HP and 190 Nm, which makes it the most dynamic. Which engine to choose? Of course MPI, whose technical problems begin with a broken timing belt. Potentially, because it usually doesn't happen. If you replace it every 100,000 kilometers, then only a gas-fueled one can break down. The engine can be equipped with a gas installation, but you have to watch out for the valve clearance adjustment every 15-20,000 kilometers and take care of the technical condition of the ignition system and the installation itself. In practice, sooner or later the cylinder head will fail, but the game is worth the candle. The engine is not particularly demanding in terms of maintenance. In addition to the aforementioned valves, the oil must also be changed every 15,000 kilometers, but according to the manufacturer, a good semi-synthetic will suffice here. You can switch to synthetic, but it is not necessary. The same service recommendations apply to GDI units, but it is not always possible to talk about trouble-free use. You have to reckon with the contamination of the intake system with carbon deposits, which naturally arise as a result of the combustion process of the direct injection mixture. Unfortunately, carbon deposits alone are enough to prevent the engine from working perfectly. In addition, dirty fuel effectively damages the high-pressure pump, which is expensive. Incorrect operation of the injection system causes the engine to be flooded with petrol. The obvious disadvantage of GDI units is the lack of the possibility of installing a gas system. Technically, it is possible, but we do not recommend it. The fact that the GDI project was unsuccessful is evidenced by the basic fact that the Mitsubishi concern abandoned it and returned to petrol engines fueled in a traditional way. To this day, the Japanese manufacturer, despite restrictive exhaust emission standards, has been successfully using indirect injection. So does buying a Pajero Pinin with a GDI engine make any sense? Absolutely. The reason to choose this version is the drive system equipped with a reduction gear. This is not a very low ratio, because it is 1.55, but it is enough to efficiently overcome off-road. The power distribution is handled by a multi-plate clutch, which can be locked or switched off, so that on the road we can move in 4WD or 2WD mode. The 1.8 MPI engine was combined with a completely different drivetrain, more road-oriented. The central differential distributes the drive equally between both axles, and that's the end of its capabilities. It can't be locked and doesn't have a reduction gear. As a result, its traction ends where one wheel loses traction. This is ideal for slippery surfaces, but most of the time it doesn't generate anything more than higher fuel consumption. So which engine to choose? It depends on you and your needs, as well as what you find. The market is definitely dominated by GDI. If you intend to drive in real terrain, this is the better version. Pajero Pinin allows you to go to an off-road event in the amateur or tourist class, as well as on organized trips off-road. A forester, hunter or fisherman can also take advantage of the advantages of the car. However, for everyday driving, on paved roads, we definitely recommend the version without a reducer and direct petrol injection. What goes wrong in Mitsubishi Pajero Pinin? The car is not particularly prone to failures, although it does have a few minor issues. One of them is corrosion. Not on such a scale as in other passenger models, but it does occur. Usually in the lower part of the bodywork, i.e. sills, wheel arches and door edges. It is better to let go of more heavily corroded ones, because it is difficult to find sheet metal parts. Since the model is quite old, production ended over 10 years ago, you can expect failures resulting from negligence and sloppiness of mechanics. Therefore, you should approach the GDI versions with special caution, which can turn out to be real traps. You have to reckon with corrosion in the electrical system and various types of self-made. The suspension is extremely simple and fairly durable. Usually, the rubbers and bushings are replaced. The front wishbone can be rebuilt. The 4 rear rods leading the axle can be rebuilt as well. In the steering system, you have to reckon with play in the gear, but rebuilt costs a few $100s. The brakes are rarely looked at. They are drum brakes at the rear. The drive system should be checked traditionally for play on the shaft, leaks from the differentials and the operation of the mechanism transferring torque to the front axle. In cars, accelerated clutch wear often occurs if it is used too intensively, especially off-road. This is a rather delicate structure, fortunately without a dual-mass flywheel. Is it worth buying Mitsubishi Pajero Pinin? In our opinion, yes, because low purchase prices and very low operating costs are strong advantages of this attractive and quite versatile model. The only factor that increases costs is fuel consumption. You should not panic about GDI engines, because the only serious drawback is the high pressure pump, which is prone to damage. This charming little car will do well in the city, thanks to its higher driving position, small size and good maneuverability, as well as off-road, provided you provide it with the right tires. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of any problems with this car that I haven't mentioned, be sure to write about them in the comments.
I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carme.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car, what breaks and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with, and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on CarMe.pro.